We're fine. We're all fine here now. How are you? All right, everybody, here we are with issue 56. So let's go ahead and have a look. So we're going to talk about the Skytop Station Battlesphere. So I believe these are probably like the battlespheres from the Droid Army, where it's from episode 2. Yep, there we go. Those are the things that they shot out, blah, blah, blah. So that'll be interesting. Then the dual worlds of Aileen. So this might be interesting. I don't know what this is from, but apparently there's behind the scenes from Legends. So that might be interesting. And I'm guessing due to some of this that it had something to do with Clone Wars. So we'll see about that. We're going to talk about Starship transponders. So that'll be important, right? The ships squawk who they are and all that kind of stuff. And real world transponders, so we even have some of that. So that's pretty cool. So let's have a look, see what we're going to be doing here. So let's have a look at our next parts, and let's have another look. And I don't know how to talk properly, but that's all right. You guys aren't here for my speaking prowess, are you? You're not even here for my entertainment factor. All right, so we have 2 and 2. We have 2 of the 4-hole pieces and 2 of the 2-hole pieces. Set those over there. We got some framework. We'll be attaching that, I'm sure. We have some detail parts. So that's interesting. I'm guessing this goes up there. If I was a betting man, I'd probably go something like that. All right. And that's it for this issue. Let's see what we're going to be doing. Oh, we're putting on the thrusters. Well, I suppose that's probably a good thing that I've started painting the lower hull, because we'll have to do that. In fact, it's even showing that here. The completed assembly should look like this. So it says, if you have painted your model, you will need to paint the braces to match the reference as shown below before attaching them. Notice the 3 that have mid or dark gray flaps, while all the rest merely have a base coat and some spatter detail. Right, so we have ours, although we did paint these ones kind of a lighter gray. So we'll be attaching those, and then we're going to be attaching all these extra other detail parts. So somewhat disappointing that we're putting these on right now when we need to paint the thing. So maybe I should get these attached before I finish painting the top. Yeah, that's probably the case. And a lot of these are coming from other parts that we've done. I've got all of those sitting over there someplace. So I wasn't sure when I was going to bring in the whole painting of the Falcon thing, but we might as well do that now. So I've primed it, and I've actually started painting the edges on the outside, on the bottom. So let me bring that over, or kind of show you what I've done. I've just got a couple pictures and whatnot so far. While researching some stuff, I found out that inside the hull, not all, even though you screw down the plates and they fit together really well, sometimes they just kind of sit down a little bit and there's a bit of a gap. So there's some people that recommend, and so I'm kind of taking that to heart, of gluing them together. So what I did was I bought this Gorilla Glue. It's super glue, but it's gel and it sets within 5 seconds. So what I'm going to do is on all of the seams of all the plating, I'm going to hold it up and get it so it's like where it needs to be. Put a bead of this in there. Hopefully it'll hold with the paint. To include paint or gluing it onto where the framework is, but I'll get it all held in, and we'll get it all glued together before we finish painting the actual top part. So let's go ahead and bounce over to what I've already completed, and we can see where I'm at to this point, and then we'll catch up and continue on. I have a feeling, because of the amount of work this is going to require, as you can tell in this picture here, doing a lot of talking and I've got a lot of work to do. But as you can tell here in this picture, I need to get this painted and these two painted as well. And so at the very least, all this has to get painted. Plus, I'll have to see what different spots have to get painted up here. If anything needs to get painted differently in some of these other sections where all these other detail parts are, I'll paint those sections first before um, I'll paint, like if they have to be gray or red or whatever. I'll get those colors painted first before I do anything else. So potentially there might be something up here around the turret that I'll have to get painted. Like this has got some grays and stuff, so we'll see how that goes. I'll do a little bit of reference on that, but let's go ahead and bounce over to what I've completed so far as the painting goes, and then we can go from there. Okay, here we are. So we got it all primered, and went with white primer here. Probably have to touch up the end here because the angle and everything. Then I'll flip it over, do all the backside stuff along the edges and all that kind of stuff. I'll let it finish drying up here. Kind of got a little bit heavy right here in a couple spots. I'm not terribly happy with myself. Got it run, for crying out loud. Run up there as well. Hopefully when it dries, it'll kind of shrink down a little bit. If I have to, I'll sand it a little bit and kind of help that out. But we'll see if it shrinks as it dries. So we'll see how it goes. We'll come back when we see more of it done. Well, here we are. We're going to build a jig to hold the bottom part of the hull. So I need to hold it up so that way I can paint it without, needing to move it too much. I may end up laying it down anyway to paint it because I definitely don't want any paint runs. But I'm going to build this jig in the event that I'm going to do what they call pre-shading. So what pre-shading is like every spot where there's, I can show you on here. So like all of these different lines right here, all of these different lines, you would basically paint like a very dark gray or a black or something like that, and you would even go around all these things, anything that's got texture to it, right? So you'd paint all those, and then when you come back and paint over with the base coat, it helps give depth to these things. It's used a lot with small scale models like airplanes and that kind of stuff. And basically what it does, it helps give depth to the different, like what was supposed to be different panels and that kind of stuff. There is a lot of people that feel like it's not necessary with the Falcon since these are pretty prominent. So basically you can get away with just adding a little bit of a wash or something like that, which I'm definitely not opposed to doing. So you can get away with just doing a wash on it. So I think that's might be what I'm going to do, is just do a wash on it. But instead of doing the pre-shading, because the pre-shading will take quite a while. But just in case I want to stand this up on end, I'm going to go ahead and build this little jig here. So let me pull this up here to where you can see it. So you can see I've marked the center lines. I marked the center line here, and then I marked it's this inside line here. This inside line where these are going to sit, and I've even marked here where the 2x4's edges are. So it's basically going to sit like that. And so then what I'm going to do is, and this will give me enough length on this end. This will be where the top is. Give me enough length on this end to be able to stand it up on the top side, and then the bottom, so there's enough room to do it from the bottom. So with that, what I need to do is I'm going to take my tape measure, and I'm just going to measure just to make sure. I need to have 9 and 11/16 from the 2x4 here up to the edge, where this board comes out, and I've got them at a bit of an angle, so, and they're both right. So they're at a bit of an angle, so hopefully that will work out. I used a 2x4 underneath because I needed to offset a bit. That should give this board enough room to pass over the top of the ramp assembly, so I needed to have space there. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and pre-drill the holes for the screws. And unfortunately, I don't quite have the right, man, that was tight. I don't have the right size bit for the screws that I'm using. I'm just using like 1.5 inch sheetrock screws. So that should be long enough to just go through those. And when I get done, I will measure out from the center line 3 and was it? What did I figure? 3 and like 15/16 or 3 and 7/8, somewhere around there. I'll double check the distance from the center line to where the center hole is going to be, and then I'll be able to mount it. So let's go ahead and pre-drill these holes for these screws. We now have that done. Now I'm going to go measure to make sure that I like I said, I believe it's 3 and 7/8, I believe is what we need to be. And so if it's 3 and 7/8, we can mark our hole there, and then we'll put a hole in there big enough for the screws that we need, which they don't need to be very big. So in reality, my hole needs to be it needs to be 3 and 29/32, which I don't have. My tape measure doesn't measure in 30 seconds, so I'm just going to have to eyeball that part of it. Started. I don't want to drill into my workbench, my desk, or my rubber mat, so I'm going to pull this off to the edge so you won't see anything for a second or two, but you'll be able to hear me. You can see my hands. There's one. There's 2. All right. right. So I'll take you over and we'll get this mounted on there and we'll see how it works. Okay, here we are. I didn't take any video, but I did get some images. So this shows the jig that I built, mounted to the Millennium Falcon. It's only got 2 screws holding it in place. The other 2 screws are actually propping it away. And then this just shows the other side where it's been primed and everything, and it's mounted there. This picture here is showing how I had actually sprayed the base color, and so I did it on the nose and then all the way around the edges. And this is just a wider out shot showing all of the edges have been sprayed and painted with the base color. Now I'll be able to flip it over and paint the base color on the other side. Well, we've got one step closer, or we are one step closer. I don't know if you can see it, but I've painted around the edges here, all along the edges here, and of course this thing's getting to be so big that you can't see the whole thing. I still have it masked off, as you can see, and you know, we'll proceed with what we need to get done. I've got everything painted up. Some of the paint not perfect, but that's okay. It doesn't have to be because it's going to get shaded and all that kind of stuff. So one of the things I want to do is some of these, I bought some Gorilla Glue super glue gel. It's supposed to set in 5 or 10 seconds. So there's some of these that aren't quite like all the way up or whatever. Like this one here, you can see it's kind of flexing a little bit. I need to figure out how I can potentially kind of prop that up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around with this glue, and I'm actually going to glue this down. So, of course, it's pretty dusty from the painting and stuff. So let me see if I can dust this off and see if that helps, because I want the glue to stick. So I think I'm going to have to come back with a damp cloth. Yeah, it's going to take a damp paper towel, I think. So let's, I have some alcohol here, and I have paper towels, and so let's just try to get this done. Boy, this gel is pretty serious stuff. Oh, yeah, well, uh, apparently it's very thick. Now I know why they call it gel. Holy crap. I'm going to be very disappointed if I can't get this to come out, because that means I'll have to get some more, and all this effort was for naught. Whoa, that was more than enough. Alright, let's prop this up. Essentially, I just don't want it to move, right? I want it to stay where it's supposed to and not move. Supposed to set up within. So sorry, I lost some footage. I received an Amber Alert right about here, and I didn't realize that when I had the Amber Alert, it stopped recording, and I don't pick it back up until for about another 8-ish minutes or so. So we'll jump forward to that section. It's just basically ending things up after I get it all glued and what have you, and I'm rambling a little bit more. So let's go to that part. For some reason I stopped recording. Oh. It's probably something I should have done quite a while ago instead of just now doing it, you know? But we'll try to make the best of it. Well, a little bit of the glue came out from underneath, I think. My finger somewhat got stuck to it. All right, so I'm going to set this aside. We're going to let it set up, and then the next thing we'll do is paint it. I don't want to take off any of my masking just yet. So we'll get it painted up with the base coat, and then we'll start painting up some of the blocks and stuff and all that kind of stuff. So I will see you once this is dry and we're ready to paint it. Okay, so here is the primered Falcon. So I had originally primered it in white, and I decided to come back and change that to gray because the color of the base coat, which is you got my shadow here. The color of the base coat is called Insignia White, and I've used that for several things. Sorry, I'm holding this with my hand, so it's a little bit crappy, but so the color is Insignia White, and it's a bit translucent, meaning that it takes some of the color that is from behind or underneath it. With the white, it was extremely light, too light for what I wanted. So I decided to reprimer it in gray. Had a bit of an issue because I was stupid and I primered it while it was upright. And as a result, there was a couple spots over here specifically. You can kind of see right there. Let me get around to this other side here. So you can kind of see where there were some issues. So right through here, I had a bit of an issue, and you can kind of see some of that texture still, where it got really thick because it was upright. Got very thick, and so I somewhat panicked, and I blotted some of the heavier stuff off, and then later on I came back in, and I sanded down where it was rough. Didn't get it perfect, but got it well enough, especially for the Falcon. You can kind of see some of my sanding marks. Sorry, for some reason my severe weather alert came up. Some reason all of a sudden my phone just interrupts everything if I have some sort of alert anymore. I need to figure that out. But so I sanded it and then kind of reprimered it, and you can see some of the spots where I sanded it. I think that it's still going to be okay. We're going to fly with it because, like I said, it's the Falcon. So I'm going to finish getting set up, and then we're going to paint this. Okay, I'm sure that the acoustics aren't very good in here, but it's time to start some painting. So I'll move the camera around as I can to try to make sure that you can see everything I'm doing, but we're going to go ahead and get started. So this paint doesn't cover all that well. So you kind of have to come back with a couple different coats and whatnot. But I can tell you it's 94, 95 outside, something like that. And it's definitely hotter than that here in the garage. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and shift the camera around so we can kind of get some of the other angles. Actually, let's go ahead and we'll move this around because I want to try to maintain the light the same. So that way I have a good idea of how it's covering and all that. Like here, pretty light. And it doesn't have to be like perfect coverage either. Because if it's not perfect, that's one of the advantages of having the gray underneath. If it's not perfect, that's just that much less weathering I have to do. And that's fine with me. So this is the color that Steve Dimzo suggested, and I know there's other people that have used it. Apparently, when the Falcon first came out, I think there was a bit of a run on this color from Tamiya. It's a Tamiya color, and I think there was a bit of a run on it because people were talking about how they were having a hard time getting it. I've picked up somewhere between 6 and 8 cans from my, I guess what you could say is a local hobby shop. And I haven't had too much of a problem. I've been able to get 1 to 2 cans every time I've gone in there. And we're pretty much done with that can. I'll shake this up. You don't need to listen to me do that. I'll shake this up and we'll come back and finish it up. Okay, so we got this can good and shook up. Okay, so I have the best light back here. So I'm going to do all of my checking for coverage on this side. I'll rotate this around and check that front side that I just did. Again, that section right here. And so the very last thing I'm going to do is come around on the edges. I'm also going to flip it over and redo the bottom because I did primer it after I painted the bottom. So I want to come back and repaint those just to make sure that I don't have any kind of bleed over from the primer. Plus I want to make sure that this part here gets covered well. So we'll let that set up just as it is, and then I'll move the bolts to this side so I can flip it up and paint the other side. Alright, let's finish this thing up and I'll let it finish baking, because that's literally what it's doing out here, is baking. Alright. I believe that's everything. Okay. I'm going to wrap it up here. So, it's painted. Next time we come back, we'll do some of the detail painting and go from there. We might get 2 parts out of this, we might get 3. Depends on how much the detail painting is and all that kind of stuff. Thank you all for watching. I very much appreciate it. May the force be with you always.